We've had a brief chance to meet with our guest, and by the way, we've had a chance to get acquainted with our guest, and we knew that it would be a very positive thing to have her here, and sure enough. Let me give you a little idea of who this is from her background. Debra Koehler is president of Sage Partners, a group that she founded about 4 years ago or more. And they specialize in innovative approaches to workforce and affordable housing, which is an area of considerable interest to many of us nowadays. I'm not lying when I tell you she has 24 years of experience in development, which obviously means that she started before she got out of high school. She was, before founding her latest firm, she co-founded the Atlantic American Realty Group, a more diversified development group. And prior to that, she had 17 years with the Wilson Company, during which time, to give you some idea what she's been up to, a little experience here, 2.5 million square feet of office and hotel, 9,400 units of affordable housing in 34 different projects. She was involved in raising almost $1 billion in fact, a little more than $1 billion in various funds, tax credits, tax-exempt bonds, and conventional financing. She was deeply involved in a conversion over about 20 months of 820 units during that time. Prior to that, she had a life as an accountant and is a CPA. But meanwhile, during all of this, she has been had a remarkable engagement in public life and civic life. She's been chairman of the board of the National Housing and Rehab Association, former chair of the Coalition for Affordable Housing Partners, former chair of the Housing Finance Authority of Hillsborough County, and many of these she's still involved in. She served under 2 governors, both parties, for the Affordable Housing Study Commission for the state of Florida. She was involved in the National Association of Home Builders Housing Credit Group, and some of you will appreciate this, past president of A.M.E, and one of the groups that you're becoming acquainted with is a principal group in development. And she's also been very deeply involved in the Chamber of Commerce in Tampa in a number of different roles. And the story just goes on. She was recently recognized by the Tampa Bay Business Journal in their 40 Under 40 award, honoring her for her both business and civic and personal engagement in the community. So we're delighted to have her here, and you'll see why all this makes sense when you get acquainted with it. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Dr. Archer. I know all that's true, and you're saying 40 under 40 now, and that was 11 years ago, so I'll just tell you right now, I wasn't 40 under 40 last year, but I like that. I forgot actually about that. But thank you for letting me come and share with you my passion. And it's kind of been a bumpy road at times, but I think well worth it and kind of the end product. And so what I thought I would do today is kind of take you and give you some of my background, because just to share with you, I have 2 children, 20 and 21, who are in college right now, and we were just talking with Dr. Archer. I am paying out-of-state tuition at Auburn. It is SEC school, so you'll have to at least give me that credit. But they're both trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives, and they're both in the College of Business right now. So I love to hear the feedback of kind of how you're deciding kind of where do I go from here. And I am going to just kind of go through this PowerPoint, and we're going to do 2 case studies today. I'll give you an overview of workforce housing, because I heard you were just in a course previous to this and talking about tax credits and Section 42. So obviously you already are totally educated on what I'm about to tell you about. But I'm going to tell you actually how it applies and then how to get to the bricks and sticks. And we'll do 2 case studies today. VIRIDIAN, which is a high-rise in downtown St. Pete that's 40 years old that we finished last year, and then Metro 510. And if you're wondering, okay, what's she working on like right now, like what did I leave Tampa and drive up here from? It was Metro 510. So I'm going to give you some pictures because we're having our grand opening November 9th. And I mean, Blaine, I don't know, I may have lost your email, but I'm sending you an email. And I'll send all of you an email for the grand opening for Metro 510. But as Dr. Archer already gave you my background, so I probably don't need to go through this again. But I am a Hokie. I graduated from Virginia Tech in accounting. But I will tell you, I started out in pre-veterinary science. And so I can tell you, you go down one path and you're positive that is what I'm going to be. And I was that, that's why I went to Virginia Tech. We're ag school. And after a year of trying to basically do everything you can imagine to, cows and horses and pigs, and I really wasn't built for it. I said, I got to change, and I just went, boom, accounting. I didn't really have a lot of foresight to think where and why accounting, although I was good in math. And I will tell you, it was a great choice for me because, I am a nerd and I love accounting. So it is a good course. Those of you who like it, others may say, I just got to get through it. But accounting it definitely has helped me get to where I am today, is having that accounting background. And I was with the Wilson Company, which is where Blaine Strickland and I worked together. And I was very fortunate because that was a local developer in Tampa. But they had a lot of very prominent projects, and I'll show you a couple pictures of some. But I had the good fortune of really being mentored by Jack Wilson, and I was there 17 years. So that really is what kind of is now, made me who I am today. And then Atlanta American, I'll give you a little bit of brief history on that. That's in the world when, I bet you thought about it, in 2004, 5, and 6, everybody, including probably your hairdresser or barber, was investing in condos. And there were condo conversions, and I was involved in that. And as we said, we did over 800 of those. The good news is we got in and got out. Some people didn't have the fortuitous timing we did, but that's what gave me my entry into rehab. So then, fast forward to Sage Partners, and now that's what we're doing, both rehab and new construction. So I would say all these paths in your life, you don't know why this is happening to you. It does give you experience. The commercial hotel projects we did, if you've been to, has anybody been to Tampa and seen the Grand Hyatt, the Tampa, right there on the Courtney Campbell Causeway? So, well, it's a very nice, that's where Blaine and we officed right beside there at Bayport Plaza and then downtown Tampa. And I learned a lot about hotels. Because, hotels, there's probably nothing more sexier than to develop a hotel. It's also really not, it's real estate, bricks and sticks, but it's really a business. And that's what I really learned there. I was the owner's rep at the Hyatt Hotel. I come out of Pete Myrick. I'm an accountant. They go, oh, we just opened this hotel. We need you to be the owner's rep. I go, what does that mean? It was basically the manager would come to me and, should I buy this, carpet or put this picture up or whatever? And then the big pictures of, can we make money on, where our room rates are? And so it's very interesting. But what I learned there as a real estate developer is that hotels, if you're going to be in a hotel business, you got to know the business aspect because it's about heads and beds every night. So it was really, that was our only hotel, if that kind of tells you something. After that, I was like, Jack, we're not doing another hotel. It's sexy, but it's really more than real estate. Bayport Plaza, that was another one that is right beside there, and that's won like tons and tons of ULI awards. And it just sold, Blaine, I don't know if you know that, for another high ticket price. I think it's been the highest price per square foot of any office building in the Tampa Bay area. And it's because of its location and obviously the quality. The other ones that you may know is Carillon Office Park, which when Jack Wilson bought it, he basically looked at a map of the Tampa Bay area, and in the very center of Pinellas and Hillsborough County is this 450 acre piece of land that's now called Carillon. And there was a vision of, that was a lot of land to buy in 1985, 86. And through partnerships with the energy company, developed Carillon Office Park, which today is a total mixed use with the hotel and the office building and the public supermarket and the fitness center and the medical facilities. So it is truly a mixed-use development now, many, many years later. But it was great. I got to cut my teeth on financing office buildings there and multi-tenant office buildings. So learned a lot about the commercial side through that. But as you're going through, and especially in real estate, there's the good times and the bad. And you got to know when you're going into the bad, you got to start pulling back the reins and then realizing where are your developments, and then what am I going to do next? So this now is 1989, 90, 91. Financing was becoming impossible. And we were doing more workouts than we were doing construction. I think our last office building was 1991. It was for J.P. Morgan Chase, 260,000 square feet. By 1993, there was no financing whatsoever. And someone came to us and said, hey, you need to look. My son, he's an attorney in Orlando, and he's doing this, it's called affordable housing. And you can imagine us coming from Class A commercial to say, what is affordable? I mean, I don't think that's our cup of tea. But luckily, we didn't quite say no. We went to Tallahassee, and we figured it out. And since then, in fact, these are pictures of the Grand Hyatt and Bayport Alphas. And then this is the, I haven't gotten there yet because this is 1996, but we also did one spring training facility. And when you have to work for George Steinbrenner, the Tampa Sports Authority, and Hillsborough County, as the three people you're contracting with, you will only ever do one spring training facility. So anyway, this one, I'll get back to that because I'm going into the residential side. On the residential world, in 1993, that was the only financing out there. And it was a program called Section 42, tax credits. It had been implemented by the Republican administration, but it's kind of interesting because you don't think of this as a Republican program, but it really is because they brought in public-private partnerships to make affordable housing work. And that's why today it is so successful. That's a list. You can see most of them started with W's because at Wilson Company, we came up with a W logo only one time because it took so much brain damage. We never said every deal will be named W from now on. So there's 34 W's. And then you'll see some other ones in there that are our newest projects. But this is a picture of what is workforce housing. And I have to show you pictures because if you just said that name, affordable housing or workforce housing, you've got probably a mental image of what I'm going to call like the Caprini Greens and Chicago and some of the areas that you don't even want to drive through. But that's not what it is at all. It's actually market rate housing with affordable financing. That's how I look at it. So we're going to do a case study today so you can really get into the nitty-gritty because I know now that you're studying and you're doing all of these different courses and you're looking at financing and appraisals and cash flows and how does all this work and how do you kind of bring it together. So I thought what I'd do is bring to you 2 case studies of what I've done since I formed Sage Partners in 2007. And you know, as luck would have it, 2007 finished with the condo conversion market. Okay. Well, tax credits was really what I'm all about. I mean, I love it, I knew it, and I thrived on it. But what I didn't really predict was 2008, Lehman crash. Nobody wanted to put any money in anything. And I just thought, well, this is, of course, a no-brainer. This particular deal, this is in downtown St. Pete, named Viridian. We developed it, 1971 was this original construction, bought it from a developer out of Jacksonville who had never seen it. And he owned it for 30 years. Never been down there. But I dealt with his CFO, and he said, absolutely, he's ready to sell. He's getting rid of all of his assets. He's doing estate planning. I said, okay, no problem. We'll go under contract 9 months. We'll close. I'll get financing. Well, it took 16 months to finance. So because of all the capital market turmoil, it was not what I thought it was going to be. But because it was our first deal out of the gate, we said, we got to, you know, all of our eggs are in one basket, so we're going to make it happen. So what we did is we took the experience that we got from Atlantic American where we were rehabbing apartments into condos, and we said we're going to rehab this 1971 building who had not been rehabbed at all in almost the 40 years that it had taken. It had, I don't know if you're getting into the world of HUD, which is obviously, everyone says HUD, and they think there's this own little vocabulary in HUD. Well, there really is, but one of the vocabulary words you need to learn is Section 8. Section 8 is a program where Housing and Urban Development Department will actually guarantee you rent on a particular number of your units. And so, you know, you talk about owning apartments and collections. You don't have that problem as long as the government's still solid enough to write your checks. So anyway, we got, and knock on wood, they still are. We're still getting those checks. So we got a 20-year contract. So 20 years. So again, I'm feeling good. We got the HUD extension, got the HUD contract. We've got the renovation down. We know kind of what we're doing. The other thing is, well, how do you renovate when the building's almost full? Well, we got the owner to commit to, as people moved out, or in this case, most people don't really move out because they're seniors, so they're either going to an assisted living facility or they're not moving anywhere else. But as they vacated, we ended up having basically, in essence, a whole floor. And so we would do the renovation floor by floor, and we hired a moving company. And the moving company, because, you know, I mean, some people live there for years and years and have a lot of stuff. We said, don't worry, we'll come in, we'll pack your boxes, We'll even pack your refrigerator and we'll give you a little pouch for your medicine. So we tried to make it as painless as possible for them. Moved them to another unit inside the building for 30 days, went and renovated floor by floor, and then moved them back. And that took about 12 months. I can tell you there's some times when I go, what am I doing? This is the most painful process I've ever done. It's, versus new construction where you just like clear the dirt and build and then tell the people to come move in. You're disrupting people's lives. But the good news is that we had lots of parties for them and fed them lots of food. And then in the end, when they moved back in and that first floor was finished and we had that first open house and they were literally crying, it was great after that. So, but anyway, so that's how we worked on that, was a renovation where and so basically the other thing is we did about $120,000 in moving expenses. Just think if we had to relocate them outside the building and then, sign leases and then relocate them back, it would have been a lot more. So we've now, because I'll tell you about a second deal we've just done, and we've even perfected this a little bit more. But again, it was just about a year of moving around. And one of the things I think when you look at buying a real estate deal, and they say that the biggest thing in real estate, and all of you are getting your master's in real estate, location, 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 and they say that and it just sounds so trite. Well, I mean, I can tell you, even in those 34 deals that I did at Wilson Company, there was a couple that weren't the best location, and now you can look at history and go, yep, shouldn't have done them because they weren't location, location, location. Well, I learned this by now, and I was like, we're not selling for anything but location, location, and this one's in an urban core, walking distance, because seniors, they still want to be independent. This is not assisted living, so they want to be able to go shopping, go to the medical, to CVS, and transportation. So this had all of those ingredients. So I will just tell you, you can learn from me. Don't make the mistake, oh, you know what, I'm going to build it, it's going to be pretty. They will move over here anyway. No, it's got to be location, location, location. So the other thing that this had was a really great feature is that the windows were floor to ceiling. And so it had these beautiful vistas. In fact, I'll show you. That's the vista looking east. You can see the water, the skyline of downtown St. Pete. So we were looking, when we were buying this building, for, okay, it's got location, location, but then it has to have more redeeming factors. Okay, that is looking west. That is obviously where the Rays play. And I happened to be there that night of that September game where it was 12 innings. And the only reason I stayed is I hadn't been to any games all year long because I've been so busy working on the two deals we're working on. But Whitney Bank called me up and they go, oh, we got tickets. It's the Yankees. Of course, I have this affinity because we built the Yankee spring training facility, but I'm really a Rays fan. And they said, here, we'll give you seats to the Whitney Club. I'd never been to the Whitney Club. I said, okay, I'll go because it's the last game of the season. Well, the reason I stayed there that night, because the Whitney Club seats, they are awesome. I mean, they serve you drinks and you have big leather chairs. I didn't care if we were losing 8-0 when we were. I'm like, I'm staying for the whole 9 innings. Of course, we made history and we won. But anyway, we're walking distance to the Devil Rays Stadium now. Financing challenges. When you're putting together now, you've got the real estate deal, location. You've got redeeming factors like the floor-to-ceiling windows. But then you still got to get somebody else to invest. I mean, I wish I had all the money to do this 100% cash, but that wouldn't make any sense anyway. But I don't. So we had 7 sources of funding. So I don't know what kind of pro formas you're looking at. If you're just looking at a deal with, say, a first mortgage and maybe a second mortgage, these aren't those deals. So maybe you're like, oh, this is too much brain damage, and some people think it is. But we had 7 layers of financing, and that is my passion. My passion is to put these sources together, and you put the sources together, and you figure out how much do I need to spend, and then you keep on getting more sources. So to put 7 layers of financing together, you got to go to the federal, got to go to the state, and you got to go to local. And we were able to do that, and again, after 16 months, we closed the transaction. We signed 5 extended use agreements, and that is where you tell whoever's giving you the money, because they're giving it to you, but they want something in return. They want affordability for many, many years, like 50 years. I didn't know the definition of perpetuity till I got into this business, and perpetuity in the world of Florida housing is defined as 50 years. So I'm doing it for perpetuity. And we signed 5 of those extended use agreements. At that moment, as after Lehman crashed, I mean, the world didn't even want to talk to us. So that was October when it crashed. We got to close this deal June 30th. At that point, the seller was just tired of me, and he thought, I'm trying to do my estate planning, and you're not helping me. And I said, I swear I will close by June 30th. And he goes, good, because I'm not giving you another extension. So you talk about pressure. And at this point, I had mortgaged my house. I mean, Blaine knows this, that at this point, you know, when you're on your back and you have nothing left, you go, okay, I'll mortgage my house. I did everything I could, and I put all my eggs in one basket, and it was this deal. So there's no more motivation than when you have everything on the line to get the deal closed. And so after doing all the things we could do and making the deal as appealing as possible to the equity and debt, we got PNC Capital to buy the tax credits, and we got Bank of America to buy the bonds. And those two entities came together, and you would have never thought that they even were in the same business. PNC and B of A, this was at the time of TARP money. They had both gotten TARP money. They both started fighting on June 29th that they needed reps and warrants of who was going to pay their TARP money back, and were you still going to fund the money, and were you still going to buy the bonds. And this was beyond I'd never dealt with this type of discussion before. And so anyway, I'm like, I don't even know how to handle this. I mean, I've got the two biggest, you know, some of the biggest banks in the country fighting over who's going to pay their TARP money back, and are they going to pay that and not pay into our deal. Anyway, cooler heads survived. They all had to go home and sleep on it, and June 30th we closed. But it was very, very hairy at that time. Oh, sorry about the whatever that French font is. We were trying to change this all 2 nights ago. But anyway, sources and uses. This is what it gives you a feeling for all those sources that we were talking about and bringing everybody to the table. So the bonds, Bank of America bought $5 million worth of bonds. We had this other interesting thing, which I want to try to explain to you other than to give you the definition of IRP decoupling. It's an interest revenue payment. It just is, I'll just be honest with you, if you get into one of these HUD deals, it's like found money, and I'd never done it before. And the $357,000 found money, I will take it all day long. So anyway, that was we floated bonds on that. Then the sale loan, that was money from Florida Housing, that's state apartment incentive loan. So that money came in, and then we layered an ELI loan on there. That's basically for extended low income. Then City of St. Petersburg, they gave us $2.2 million. Then we sold the tax credits for $4.7 million. Then we put in $100, and then we put in our deferred developer fee. And that was really the big number. And at that time, you're like, well, $1.5 million, did you really make any money? And I'll show you the sources, and so, I mean, the uses, so you can see that we made some money. And since then, the deal got better. But when we closed, this was it. So bought the building for $6.8 million. Design and construction, which is basically the rehab of the building, almost $6 million. And then there's a bunch of fees, because you put all those layers of financing in, you got to write checks to all those people who, you know, said, I'm bringing the money, so you need to give me a fee. So went through all those fees, did construction interest. Always when you're doing your pro formas, and they call it construction interest, capitalized interest, whatever you think you're going to need, just double it. And right now the lenders want you to double it, so it's good. But it used to be they go, well, you're just padding your budget. You're putting 24 months, and you said you could do this in 12 months, so just put 12. Well, now I go, no, I want 24 months, even though I'm telling you 12 to build it. And they say, no problem. So I'm just telling you that's another little trick. Right now, just put more money, because if you run out, you're personally guaranteed you write the check. So put in on your uses and make sure your sources. And then developer fee. So $2.8 million was our developer fee, and you saw that we left in the deal $1.5 million. So you go, well, okay, well, that's really not a bad day of work, you know, $1.3 million. But you don't get that until you have to earn it. So anyway, this deal also had a $1 million contingency, which was for hard cost and soft cost. So hard cost is your construction, and how do you really make sure that you get a good construction deal? Well, are there any building construction majors in here? So, you know, you got the GC contract. Well, you do basically you do a guaranteed max contract, and you get a payment, PMP, a payment and performance bond. Because I'm personally guaranteeing construction, but I'm not a GC. So I want to make sure the GC does their job. So they're going to give me a guaranteed max contract, so I know that budget number I will guarantee. And then I'm going to look for a payment and performance bond, which is an insurance company saying, I'm backing that GC to perform what they said they would do in the contract. So those are kind of what I call the belts and suspenders that you want to put on your deal. And then, of course, you have a contingency just in case one of these numbers you didn't get to. Other interesting thing is looking at unit mixes, especially when you're buying an existing building. Is like, are these things that people are going to, I mean, are they going to rent it? Is it the right square footage or the floor plan layouts? This one had, because it was seniors, 83 efficiencies and 105 one-bedrooms. And I'll tell you, that was a great mix because we're 100% leased. And I had history on that, too. I'm not going to go through all these numbers other than just to give you the rents, the big time rents. We had some set aside at the ELI, the extremely low income, and those rents are $341. That's pretty cheap for downtown St. Petersburg. And our highest rent came from the government, the $800. That was guaranteed by the government, and that was predominantly most of our units. So we were getting, I'm not complaining, we were getting a nice check from the government that was basically making our cash flows work. Then you have to look at it when you're going to rehab a building. Well, what is it that you're really rehabbing? Well, a lot of people, we would call it lipstick on the pig. And they would go in, and this was in the condo world, they would go in and they would make it all pretty. They would like, you know, new paint, maybe new roof, but it looked really good. But if you peeled behind it, you did not want to own that. And all these deals, I have to own for a minimum of 15 years. When I signed that partnership agreement with whoever I'm going to partner with, 15 years. So I'm not doing lipstick on the pig. I am doing every building, mechanical equipment you possibly can do. And you're looking, what are the operating costs? So we what I call greened up this building. The name is VIRIDIAN, which in Latin means green. And so this building was totally green by the time we got finished with, and I did not go for LEED certification. Is anybody LEED certified in here? Which, I mean, that's a good thing to do, but it's $75,000 to get it, which is on an affordable housing community. Our rents are our rents. We don't get, oh, we're LEED certified, we get that medallion, you know. But anyway, we could have been LEED certified because of all the different things that we did. Our cooling tower, we went and it was originally using 8 million gallons a year in water, and then we're down to 4 million gallons a year in water. So the cooling tower, and the one that I just did, we went air-cooled, so we went down to 0 gallons in water usage. So those are the things that you look at when you're going to rehab. You're going to go, okay, what can I do to prolong the life of the building, make it efficient, and look at operating costs. So these are the things that you can see. I mean, obviously we did anything from the life safety side too. This building was not sprinklered, and it housed seniors, and it's 13 stories high. So of course we put the sprinklers in and the life safety and the fire alarms on top of the things that we did to give it extended life and more operating efficiency. The R19 insulation above the top floor is really interesting. I have a piece in my office, and it's like this thick, but you would be amazed at what that saved us in energy. So before we put on the new roof, we just put this big, thick insulation right above the top floor, and then that was really reducing our heat coefficient. The modernization of the elevators, I'll tell you, our seniors, they have patience, but those elevators, I mean, they literally got stuck every day. So they were very happy when we modernized all the elevators. That's our cooling tower. That's the day that it went up on the top of the building, and I've been on the top of the building to see the cooling tower, but I've never seen it being put on the top of the building, so I had to share that with you. The resident upgrades, so you can imagine, 40-year-old cabinets, carpet. I mean, carpet's not really the healthiest thing. In fact, you're seeing in trends in multifamily, most people are getting rid of carpet because every time somebody moves out, you got to replace the carpet because it gets trashed. I mean, my son's renting a place in Auburn, and I'm like, they put carpet in here, and it's, you know, he's a student. I mean, after the first keg party, it's just totally gone. So anyway, no carpet in residential. I don't care if you're doing student housing or you're doing senior housing. I mean, now I'll show you pictures of what we're doing. I mean, but forget carpet. I mean, we did the new cabinetry, the sliding glass, the sliders that we did on the closets. I mean, everything was just very old, and so we updated it all. Energy Star. I mean, that sounds so trade. I do Energy Star, but it saves money. You know what your 2 top appliances are that use the most energy? I mean, and you can't say it because you're leads. No, but you can. What do you think they are? Yeah. Actually, refrigerator, and then, what's that? Hot water heater. So my big 2 things, and then washer dryer. So my big things are, what am I setting my, I mean, this is crazy, but I've just walked 120 units in the last 3 weeks. I go in and I look at what's the freezer set on and the main refrigerator. And so most people set them on 9, which is the highest. I mean, that is using, double the amount of energy. And then the other is where your hot water is set. So, but we replaced all the hot water heaters, so that just right there got us an energy savings. And same thing with the appliances. I mean, they were the old appliances, and they were so old that you couldn't even get replacements for them or replacement parts. So now they've got all new GE appliances, and they're all Energy Star. We did the low flow shower heads and faucets. But another cool thing that we did, because where do you get most of your plumbing leaks inside a residential unit? Anybody know? Toilet, yes, toilet. You know that, like, you'll go home, maybe you're living in an apartment, and you just hear it running, you're like, yeah, whatever, I'm not paying the water bill. Well, we're paying the water bill as the owners, not the residents, so they let their flappers just run and run and run. So we found a toilet made by Niagara that is flapperless. And you say, wow, how's that work? Well, it's basically got like a plastic basin. There's no flapper. The water comes in the plastic basin, you flush the handle, boom, it dumps, boom. There's never going to be a water leak unless the plastic leaks in the basin. So anyway, we're doing that in all of our deals. And I just think it's the coolest thing, and I can't believe that I haven't seen it more. But anyway, everything you can think about. What are we doing? We're thinking green. We're thinking operating expenses because we're owning this for 15 years. Grab bars, obviously, senior facility. We want to make sure that this is ADA accessible, so we did the grab bars all around the toilets and the showers and bathrooms. I mean, we got everything, including, I really get into toilet paper holders. I don't know, it really sounds funky, but toilet paper holders, there are so many different kinds, but the kinds I like the best, which I always say there's no excuse for never changing the toilet paper, is that and we buy them at IKEA now, they basically just, it's like basically a stick and just put the toilet paper on it. Well, our seniors had never seen anything like it. And they're like, what is this? I go, look, this is how it works. And now they love it. They love it. They show everybody their toilet paper holder. That's unusual. They come in, they go, look at my new home and look at my toilet paper holder. But that's how the details that we got into. And then we did, obviously, no VOC paint. We did a cork look there. And now we've gone, I'll show you the next two pictures, the next two deals. We did the bamboo look, and now we're doing like a weathered barn oak look. So that's kind of where you get to do the fun stuff with the colors and things like that. We did programmable thermostats. Big mistake in a senior deal. Actually, I'm still having a problem with programmable thermostats in my regular deals, but we have now changed that. Our second senior deal, because they don't want programmable thermostats. They're there all day and all night, and they don't really need them programmed. So we now have changed, and it's on, off, cold, hot. But we did programmable thermostats because that was green, and that sounded really good. But that was not right for that demographic population. So this is the existing kitchen. And you can see here the kitchen construction. I mean, we just gutted it and started over. And that's the new kitchen. So you can see that cork look on the floor. You can see, obviously, the cherry shaker cabinets. And we did, new range and lots of storage. So a big difference. The existing bathroom, and actually this was one of the nicer looking bathrooms that you can see. And we ripped everything out. The only thing on these, the tubs were actually in good condition. They were basically cast iron tubs. So on this particular community, I didn't want to rip that out. I mean, that was really not green to go rip and throw something away that was still very viable. So on those, we resurfaced them and got a 15-year warranty on that. And then this is the new bathroom. So you can see the grab rails, that toilet paper holder, which at that time when we installed it, that really wasn't that functional. We learned that because it kept on sliding off. So now it goes up and down. That's the lavatories. The living room, you can see like the floor to ceiling. This is a studio. There's the floor to ceiling. We basically then took all that carpet up. Did you see that carpet? That's just ugly blue indoor-outdoor carpet. Not friendly at all for germs or anything like that. And now this is our new living room. And they loved it because it was easy to clean. Those who were in carts, they could get around in their carts with no problem whatsoever. So anyway, that was a senior housing community. And that, now I'm glad to say, it got financed, it got closed, got that mortgage off my house, got the developer fee. So the world turned out well, and it's now 100% leased, and the government pays 80% of the units every month. So it can work. It is a lot of headaches just to try to get everybody, I call it a group hug, that you got to get everybody to get the group hug, and then sometimes they start beating each other up, and you got to keep them back at the table. But the good news is that now I can say fast forward, the deal worked, and it was right because it was location, 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 and it was a good asset. But what the other part of, I think, the affordable housing community is what I call the workforce housing. So this one I just showed you was the senior living side. Basically, I don't even want to tell you what they define seniors as, but it's 55 and older, so I'm almost there. But the senior housing side is one segment, and then there's what's called workforce housing. And that's kind of the new name for affordable housing, because a lot of times you may have heard, like even when you're studying in the tax credit world, it's called affordable housing. But now everyone goes, ooh, I don't really like that name. So they just about 2 years ago, it's called workforce housing. So I totally bought into that mantra, and I'm saying workforce housing. But what I think is interesting about workforce housing is when you go up to Washington and you talk to the legislatures, especially the ones that have been on the Hill a while, they understand why it's successful, because you've got that private-public partnership. It is definitely the longest-running, most successful affordable housing program, and you've got all these different programs that have come and gone throughout the years. And the reason it's successful is because you look at the track record of foreclosures and defaults, because you bring so much equity into the transaction when you sell those tax credits, you have a low debt. So basically, your deal, as long as your operating expenses don't go out of control, it will cash flow. And you've got a syndicator there or an investor who bought those tax credits. Those tax credits, they buy them on a 10-year stream. So you got to keep that deal in compliance. If it goes into foreclosure, you all been in the tax world studying the recapture world, the R word, not good. No, none of the corporations who buy tax credits want recapture. So usually they will figure out a way to keep those tax credits in good stead. So when you see reports on, you've heard about all the big commercial foreclosures and the residential foreclosures, the foreclosures in the affordable housing workforce world have been less than 1%. And the government likes that. That's a good story for them to take and invest, and the foreclosure rate is less than 1%. And that's because I call it all the belts and suspenders. Who do we serve? Well, we serve basically 60% of A.M.E, area median income. Well, what is area median income? Well, I'll just give you an idea. For the Tampa MSA, which is Pinellas, Hillsborough, and Pasco, and Hernando, that is $55,000. That's the area median income for this particular year. So you basically take 60%, and that's for a family of 4, 60%, and that is $34,000 rounded. So family of 4, when you come to qualify, that sounds like you're not really making that much money. That's $16.84 an hour. But you would not believe how many people live on that type of income. The great thing is you qualify one time with that income, and then say you go and you get a promotion, or you change jobs and do better. You do not have to leave. There's not a basically there's not a disincentive for you to do better. So that's what I think why the program's so successful. It serves workforce. It basically provides a needed housing that I'm going to show you the next one, which is our workforce housing, why we're leasing up so quickly. And our rents are typically 10 to 30% below market. So you think if you build a good product in a good location and you're 10 to 30% below market, you should be able to be hopefully successful. So our second case study now is workforce housing, and this is in downtown Tampa. This is a rendering, but we CO'd the last floor yesterday, so it's now done. But to give you a feel for downtown, I mean, all those deals that I showed you were mainly suburban office, suburban residential, and we'd only really done 2 transactions in my history that were downtown urban deals, and they were both commercial office buildings that were, we called them that they were prettier to look out of than look at. But they made a lot of sense. The first one's Park Tower, and Park Tower was one of the first skyscrapers ever built in Tampa that was of any significance, about 40 stories. And we bought that out of bankruptcy from Prudential, and we bought it for $50 a square foot, and we sold it to the Mets owner for $102 a square foot, about 7 years time. So, and we had an investor partner, and that deal worked out really well. So that was the first investment we did in downtown Tampa as the Wilson Company. And then we bought this building, which really looked old. 1967 was the real first high-rise in downtown Tampa. And that one, Reimage named it Franklin Exchange. We took the top floor and bought it for $22 a square foot. And it's location, but it has one issue that, we thought 22 a square foot, you can make anything work because it's just so cheap and it's below replacement value. But the window line was not really premier window lines, and everybody liked the big windows. So we got a lot of what I call the kind of the back office where they put their equipment, and it was really more for what I call the bunker style. But anyway, I'm still an owner of that building, so I can tell you it's cash flowing, so I have no complaints. But I can just tell you that it's just definitely been an interesting investment. So 5 blocks down the road, we end up last year putting 2 deals under contract right beside each other. And I'm going to just tell you that's just never probably going to happen again in my life. So I know it. I mean, I know it when I see it. So this building right here doesn't look a lot like VIRIDIAN, the one I just showed you. Well, it's very similar. 1971, senior high-rise, HUD. I mean, almost exactly what I just showed you on Viridian, except it's in downtown Tampa. So I went to the Methodist church who owned it and said, hey, I just did this deal called Viridian. You want to go see it? They were ready to sell. So got it under contract, and I started looking across the street at this one. And this is an old historic church, and then it had an acre of land. I said, wow, wouldn't it be neat if we could buy that too and then make that workforce housing? Well, it's lucky that we got it under contract, but I got that under contract August 14th and that August 15th and submitted to the state August 16th. So there was a lot of like no sleep, and so when you burn the midnight oil and you stay up all night, and I guess you drink Red Bull now or whatever. I mean, it was no-dose in my days. But anyway, I just drink Diet Coke, and I can stay up all night and do all this. But anyway, it was worth it because we stayed up all night, put these two deals together, and we didn't get financing the way we first thought. We put the financing together, and we thought, this is how we're going to do it. And we submitted to both the Florida Housing to get tax credits because they allocate the tax credits. Well, guess what? They allocate tax credits now because everyone kind of ties in their scoring. They allocate it, and everybody ties, and they pick lottery numbers. I'm like, okay. Well, we got a lucky lottery number on this one here, on Metro 510. This one, we did not get a lucky lottery number. So we got one lottery number, and that's how we won, which is crazy, but that is how they allocated it. And so, and then this one, I still really wanted to put the deal together, so we found out that there was a lot of new federal programs that had just come out. So we put both deals under contract, closed September 28th and September 29th of last year. We finished and just had the grand opening on this one last Wednesday, and this grand opening is November 9th. So, and we have 5 people in our company, and so we've been really, really busy. And but the good news is that this one, which we did the same kind of rehab with Occupy Rehab, that one is called Vista 400, and that one is now 100% leased. And it's got a Section 8 contract. The government writes a check every month. And so we said, we got that one figured out. But this one, Metro 510, historic church, built in 1914. A.M.E. church. Martin Luther King gave one of his first speeches there. Rosa Parks, Thurgood Marshall, Jackie Robinson, Ray Charles. That building is not going anywhere. In fact, it looked like it was about to fall down. There was a tree growing out of the roof. I looked over one day from Vista, looked over, and there was a stained glass window was there. No, it was gone. I was like, oh my God, we just lost one of our stained glass windows. A big storm had come through, blew it, and it was just hanging. So we run over there. We don't even own the building. We're like, oh my God, we got to save this window. But the building literally was falling apart. But we said, we can do this because we won that lucky lottery number, and I know how to put financing together. So anyway, after looking at cooking schools and theater companies, and we looked at all kinds of options, we decided, wait a minute, this is an asset that needs to belong to the workforce housing we're about to build around. So we created it all 15,000 square feet as a life center for Metro 510. And so anyway, when you're in Tampa, I got to show it to you because, as I said, it's the neatest deal that I've ever done and probably ever will do. One of the interesting things when you're looking at workforce housing in downtown urban areas, especially Tampa, who never had one ever built, is like, is it going to be successful? And so we looked at, and they did a survey for the Tampa Downtown Partnership, and we looked at why people want to live downtown. And now living downtown is kind of like the cool thing. It's the hip thing. And so basically 89% wanted to experience the urban lifestyle, and it just went on down for that. But only 54% found it affordable. So that's when we saw the statistic we knew we think we have something. And 37% of the downtown workers commuted over 30 minutes or more each way to work, averaging $8,000 a year. So we thought, wow, our rents are $588 for a one-bedroom. We can save them that much money just in their rent. So the downtown living, if you've been to Tampa, you know there's lots to do, and that's what's attraction. I'm not going to give you all the details. Lots of restaurants, lots of the grocery store. I'm going to say that's kind of a stretch. It's a mile away. It's a Publix. But now we just got a new kind of cool one called Duckweed Urban Market. Can't tell you that all of our residents will shop there, but it's that just starting to grow. And we have a Walmart neighborhood market, and this Oceanic Oriental Market is probably the best place to go shopping, and it's only 3 blocks away. So you got to look at grocery, living, culture, transportation. Well, I guess you're studying, and you heard this like big term, TOD, transit-oriented design. That's like the big buzzword. Well, literally, the transit center for all of Hillsborough County is right beside us. We're adjacent. So our seniors love it because they can be independent and get on the bus anywhere. And then, of course, the workforce housing loves it because they can take for 25 cents and get anywhere in downtown Tampa. So transportation's huge. Schools, because we're now workforce housing serving with children, we looked at all the schools in the neighborhood, and they're fantastic schools. So where am I going to live if I live in downtown Tampa? I can live at the Element, which was going to be a condo. It's really, really nice. It's high-rise. It's beautiful. But I'm going to pay $1,300 for one bedroom. Or I'm going to live at Grand Central, which was going to be a condo, went rental. Now it's going back to condo, so you can't even rent there now. But it's $1,320 when you could rent for a one bedroom. The Slade, condo, went apartment, probably go back to condo, $1,168. And then Seaport, which is probably always going to be apartments, is now on the market for a really high number, $999. So we're at $588 for one bedroom. So let me just tell you, we opened 3 weeks ago. We're 50% leased. We ran out of one bedrooms first because they were just like, oh my gosh. And our 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms are going really, really fast. We talked about the area median income. This, I just wanted to give you the grid so you can kind of see who we're serving. So a single person, which I'll tell you, most of our single people, where do they work? They work in the hospitality industry. They're working at the restaurants. They're working at the hotels. We have some that are like assistant nurses and things like that. A full registered nurse probably will be making too much money. But we have a ton of people that I call the economic backbone of our community. That's who makes these wages. $11.42 for a single person. And I just put up minimum wage to give you perspective. We were, we do outreach marketing. Is really direct, what I call guerrilla type marketing. I mean, we're handing out flyers. Our marketing person was at the UPS store yesterday, and the woman there goes, wow, I make, $8 an hour. And she goes, you need to go down there right now. She goes, well, I don't have a car. Well, it's right beside the main transit center. So there are tons of people that are really looking for what we're doing. So we then took the church, and now we had to build and design 120 units in 1 acre. So over 100 units in acre density with structured parking. Urban Studio, we hired an architect, a local architect who we'd worked with many years at the Wilson Company, and we gave them the challenge. April, we came to them. We've never done this in my whole career. We did an architect competition because usually, I mean, you're just like, I got to just get an architect and get them to go. Well, there was no one really doing any jobs, so we went to 4 architects, some actually in Dallas, and we said, we're going to give you $5,000 a piece. We have 120 units. We have a historic church. Here's our site plan. Here's our survey. Give us, and here's our budget. And we want renderings and floor plans. And we want you to sign that whatever you do, we own it because we're giving you $5,000. Well, I could have had 20 architects if I wanted to, but I narrowed it down to 4. So we had architect competition. They all came in. They gave us their presentations. One of them looked really nice and really sexy. We went, wow, so you can do this for our budget? They go, well, not really. We went, okay, well, that's not going to work. So anyway, they were eliminated immediately. And then we were down to 3. And we went with Urban Studios because we had dealt with them. They were in Tampa. They were literally 2 blocks away. And we knew the partners and the principals. And we got actually their most talented architect on this particular job because this was really their only game in town. So general contractor, very important piece of the team. This is the first time we had ever used First Florida. They're out of Miami. But they were a specialist in urban high-rise in Miami. They did a lot of work in our affordable housing world, so they understood time frames and tax credit promises. And they hired my #1 project manager from the Wilson Company. So I was like, okay, you're sold because you know talent, and he ended up not being on our job, but it was really important, and they were fantastic because this was a very complicated project. Then the final piece was, because you're wondering, okay, you only have 5 people in your company, how are you doing all this? Well, you can see we just basically third-partied out everything, including management. At Wilson Company, when we were at our height with almost 10,000 units, we had 300 people in our company. And honestly, I'll just tell you from personal experience, I'd rather have 5 people than 300. And I won't make all the GC fees, I won't make all the property management fees, but I can have a life. So we hired Royal American Management to do our third-party management, and it has definitely been the right decision. So we have a great team. So we had the team put together, and then it was the sources. And sorry, that got like, I can't stand it when numbers don't line up. Obviously, something happened in the conversion. This one wasn't as complicated as Viridian because we got those 9% tax credits that we got through Florida Housing. We got a first, and we also went to what I call the one-stop shop. Bank of America, who, big bank, everyone's heard of them. They love tax credits because they have this investment criteria called CRA, Community Reinvestment Act, and they needed a lot of credits in downtown Tampa. So they were like, we want this. And we actually got into a bidding war between them and PNC. And at the end, I just said, okay, PNC, I split the baby. PNC, you get Vista, and Bank of America, you get Metro. So that's how we did it. So Bank of America gave us basically $3 million mortgage, tax credit equity. They bought our tax credits. And I don't know if you're getting into the numbers, like, you know, you're selling it cents on the dollar, but basically we sold it for 84.5 cents. And to give you perspective, Viridian was sold at 70 cents. So things had happened in the marketplace for supply and demand. Local government, City of Tampa came up with $200,000. I needed that to get into the state cycle. I loved it, $200,000 in essence grant. We did it as a loan, but it really is a grant. Then Obama administration came and said, oh, we can't make these deals work. And they just started $5 million, and then it went up to $6 million. So we basically got another $6 million in equity. That's why this deal, which you'll see the finishes, is the finishes, because we got another $6 million in equity. And then obviously our deferred fee was a lot different than the first deal. We paid $2.2 million for the church and the land. And a downtown transaction, that's a pretty good deal, because there was value to the church. We spent $16 million. So you say, well, what was that other architect designing? Well, they designed a building that was $18 million. So that's what has still been a big, big gap for us. You can see just the rest of the uses are just like the other one that I showed you before. So same, basically, structure where you've got your sources and your uses, and now you have to say, can I make this work? Well, we talked about the A.M.E. church and all of its history, and then we talked about the fact that we need to make sure we preserve it. So we went to our general contractor. Actually, First Florida didn't want to take the job at first, and it wasn't because they didn't know how to do mid-rise. It's because they were scared to death of that church. So only after the owner of the company climbed up into the rafters and saw these huge oak timbers that were like this big and perfect, and he goes, okay, I'll take the job. So anyway, because we had to take that church and we were going to restore it, so he just didn't know if he could do it for the $1.4 million budget, but he did. But at the time we bought it, there was only 14 members left in the church. And the great story now is one of those 14 happened to be one of our first residents to move in. So he likes what we did, and that was really meant a lot. And the A.M.E. church just had their conference in Tampa. And they're using this as their model to get rid of their urban deals, because they think, wow, a developer could buy it and they can pay us money, and then we can take our church and move it to where our parishioners are now. So anyway, they've got my number on speed dial, and I really like it. The Life Center, it was obviously a church. This was their fellowship hall. We changed that to the Life Center. This is now the Wi-Fi coffee house, hotspot, and we call it Chill. And you guys see we're getting the graphics in, or I wish I could show them to you, but they're very, very cool. This is fun. This is a sanctuary, and this is looking down from basically the balcony, the mezzanine area. The fire marshal told us, you're going to have to build that railing up. And I said, no, that's part of the historic fabric of the church. He says, okay, then you're going to have to sign personally and give me, I joked. I told my son, who's actually working on construction on this job in his semester off Auburn, and I said, I have to give him my firstborn. I guaranteed that no one would go up there except for the employees of Sage Partners. So, because the fire marshal said, we can't have that as part of your structure that we actually use unless you raise the balcony railing. So anyway, I didn't want to raise the balcony railing. We still have 15,000 square feet to use after that. And your average clubhouse, just to give you a feel, is about 3,500 to 4,000 square feet. So we had lots of square footage. But this gives you an idea. That red area was the pulpit area, the stage. There's all the stained glass windows. We took every one of them out because we knew they were falling in, so they needed major repair. Redid all the framework, redid all the leaded glass. And then we kept all the original lights, and then we relit them with LED. And as part of our public art commitment in downtown Tampa, you're required to do that. We have the lights lit at night so the whole church shines. Spray ground. I could have taken a picture of this yesterday because now it's done. But we commissioned an artist from Disney to do, we thought, wow, it'd be kind of cool. And there's a lot of starving artists out there. So we found him. He had done a lot of work for Disney. We said, here's who we are. Here's kind of the church and the history. Come up with something. He came up with 4 different renderings. I'm going to have to tell you what this means, but after then you will know the artist's statement. but this is a dandelion and the, oops, excuse me, and the seeds from the past going into the future. That's the skyline of downtown Tampa, and those are children running through the spray ground, which got finished yesterday, and hopefully, right now, 5 o'clock, the Department of Health is there right now inspecting it. So cross our fingers, we'll get our final CO on the spray ground. So anyway, when you build an urban deal, you can't build a swimming pool. Nuh-uh, there's no square footage when you're doing over 100 units an acre. So we did the spray ground. That's our lower courtyard. Our upper courtyard, the big trend is gardening, like the urban gardens. Well, there's no square footage, so we went up. So now we have a vertical garden that we are planting in these things called woolly pockets, and they can be irrigated, and they grow all kinds of, basil and mint. And so that's going to be for the residents. They're going to do the urban gardening. And then we got these chaise lounges called Chill, and they got installed yesterday. They're very cool. Well, of course, this is we have 2 levels of parking, and then this is the first level of basically residential. We have 2 little mini pocket parks called basically with synthetic grass. There was this one big white wall, and I said, oh, we could show movies at night. Well, our residents are loving that concept, so every Friday and Saturday night we do movie night outside, and they can bring their blankets and have picnics. Another big thing in urban living is access. We have a remote access with a clicker. I will show you the access into the unit. It's a fob. I don't know, that's probably something you do. I saw that in student housing at Auburn where they do the fobs. Well, I'd never really seen it in market rate, or residential, or workforce. And we have now electronic locks for all of our residents. And that fob gets them into every gate and gets them into their own apartment home. And it's really, from a security side, I mean, it's gone over very well, and I really love it. Cameras. We have cameras everywhere, and they get piped into an internal TV channel so everybody can watch everybody else. And you know what? The senior deal, that's the most heavily watched TV channel next door. And I was there last night giving a tour to the assistant secretary of HUD came down, and I went, you got to come over and see Vista. And I go, when we walk in, they're going to come down because they know us. And they literally was like swarming. So the cameras are there, and it's like a security thing, but it's also entertainment value. So I sell it every which way. And then we have another dedicated TV channel, and that is where we do all the announcements. Like, we're going to have movie night, and it's going to be this, this, and this. And then we have this other really neat area because we had to tell the story. I mean, you can't take this historic church and not tell the story. So we came up with the Walk of Legends, which is kind of a little bit of a walkway between the church and the new construction. And we have engraved 140 pavers with people that were significant in the history of the church. But that left out the 47 pastors that have been there from 1870 on. So I just added another 47 pavers up the other side. And then we have 8 history plaques that tell about Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks. So that's I call that our outdoor history museum. This is the inside of the apartment. You can see, it's hard to really picture with the light here, but it's 9.5-foot ceilings. It is totally urban loft. I mean, first I looked at the ceilings, I'm like, oh, they're too rough. Well, that's just because that was my personal opinion. I mean, our average age is 28, 29, 30. They love this kind of rough concrete texture. Triple windows. I'll show you another picture of the kitchen with the cabinets. And this oak flooring, which, let's see if we can see it there. There we can see it better. So remember I told you we had the cork, then we went to bamboo. Look, all this is vinyl. This product here has an actual grain texture, so you can feel it. And people actually, they walk in, they think it's actually wood. But it looks like an old antique barn wood. But, we look at it, we need bomb-proof. We need something that people are going to live in, and 15 years later, it's still going to look good. And if it gets scratched, it's only a 4-inch by 3-foot plank. Pull that one up, go to the next one. So this is what we're thinking, we want something that's appealing, but we want something that's durable. So this gives you, it's a great room. Typically you have galley kitchens or L-shaped kitchens. Totally big, great room. We found out the marketplace really likes this because it gives them a lot of flexibility. You can see here where we set up the table area here. The other picture I showed you was basically on this side, and that's so you walk in, it's a big room. You got the seating, the windows. And we did, obviously, Energy Star GE stainless steel appliances with the glass top stove, the over-range microwave with the popcorn button, because that is the most important thing on this feature, and pantry space galore. So all of this, and then we did under cabinet lighting, granite countertops, and subway tile backsplashes. And at that point, we ran out of things that we could actually think of upgrading. But that's because we got the extra $6 million, and that's what we used it for. The apartments, the bathrooms. biggest bathrooms I'd ever designed. And you know what? I really like it because it just gives you a lot more space. So we did double masters, both with very large bathrooms, and we're able to take the granite into the bathroom. But then we want to take the stainless in the bathroom because it was this hip, modern thing. Well, our contractor said, there is no way you're finding stainless steel sinks that are going to be anywhere near your budget. I said, well, we're going to the International Builder Show, and we'll tell you when we get back whether we can find it. Well, we go there. There's this teeny little booth, but they had the sink right there. And I went, how much is that sink? They said $68. I go, is it double-walled? Yes, it's double-walled. Has it got a 15-year warranty? No, it's got a 20-year warranty. I go, how quickly can you get it? They go, well, we get it from China, but we can get it in 3 weeks. I was like, so we did the deal right there, even though the GC had to pay for it through our contract. But that's what we were looking for, and we were so excited to find that quality. So we were able to use double-walled stainless steel sinks and Price Pfister faucets. And then that toilet right there is the one I told you about with the flapperless toilet. Walk-in closets. We did huge walk-in closets with barn doors. So they slide like this, not the bifolds that take up space. We did barn doors. Washer dryers. We did the GE high-efficiency washer dryers. That's the only thing that's an option. Everything else is standard in the apartment. And that option is $40 a month. And when you run the math to go downstairs and do it per load, this makes all the sense in the world. And that is our entry lock. So that's the fob system with Schlage. The green features, we talked about the Energy Star, the air conditioning, the wall insulation, the LED lighting. I mean, if you could think about it, we tried to do it. Much less, you know what the most green thing you can do? You can renovate an existing building because you're using existing infrastructure. So this is why, we said this is really green because not only did we do all the green features in the new, but we got to renovate and repurpose an existing deal. The other thing we didn't have to do but we wanted to do was we went with the high impact, basically low E windows. And that wasn't a requirement of code or anything else. But we said, you know what? We have it in the budget. We're going to do it. And you ought to see how quiet those are. And being right beside the transit center and got all the buses, can't even hear them. So it was definitely a very good investment. The public art side, those are the stained glass windows that we restored. And they still take my breath away every time I go in there and show them. So I definitely think it was a good investment. So here we are, grand opening. I will send, if I get all your emails, I'll send you an invitation, and you can come 2 hours, 7 minutes, is what I did today, to our grand opening. It's interesting. We've got, so far, confirmed our Congresswoman, Kathy Castor. I've been working on our Senator Bill Nelson, and it's been going back and forth. But now, I just met with the Assistant Secretary of HUD yesterday and got to give him a tour. And now he's like, oh, my gosh, why do you think the Obama administration wants now to come to our grand opening? Because we created 680 construction jobs on this site. Next door, we created 160 jobs. So that money that they gave us, that $6 million, that is a success story. So they were coming down to Tampa to pitch Rebuild America, the next wave of money they're trying to get from Congress. I'm like, you need to go tell success stories of what you just did in order to get people to buy in on what you're about to do. So now, we'll see. I'm still working on it. The other interesting person I'm working on, which I shouldn't even tell you because I probably am now running out of time, but Bill Clinton gave his last speech before he was reelected president in 1996 at St. Paul A.M.E. And it's on YouTube. So you go YouTube, Bill Clinton, St. Paul A.M.E. And I mean, he is a great speaker. I mean, he had that church going. It was like a revival service. And I've watched that video 100 times. So, of course, I'm about to go, someone's got to know, Bill Clinton to say, this is not about, I need $100,000 to come down here and cut the ribbon. But this is all part of, the history that, put you as president again. So anyway, I've got the YouTube video. You can get it. And it's very cool. But anyway, I'm working. When I'm not here, I'm now going to be leaving, making the political phone calls to get the rest of the politicians there. But in the meantime, we'll probably have about 250 people at that grand opening because we are doing a time capsule. When we bought the church, there was this huge safe. I mean, it literally weighs about 1,800 pounds. And it was in the pastor's office. And I said, oh, well, what's in it? He goes, I have no idea. I don't have a combination. So I'm thinking, well, he's not going to move it. I knew that. So anyway, the day before we bought it, they're drilling it open. And I'm like, oh. They open it up. It's like Geraldo Rivera. And there was like nothing in it of any significance. But the safe was so cool. I was like, I don't know what we're going to do with it, but I am keeping that safe. So the construction guys are like, they demo everything. And they're like, there's the safe in the middle. Everything else is cleared out, and there is the safe. They go, what are you going to do with the safe? I go, I don't know. I'm going to come up with something. Just give me a minute. So anyway, they were pouring a new floor into the entry of the first floor of the church. I was like, wow, because the floor is going to go about this much higher. So we just moved the safe, put it down, put concrete around it, and now we have a 300-pound basically glass over it. So the first thing you walk in when you walk into the Life Center is you see that safe. So we are going to put a time capsule in there on the grand opening. We were encouraging everyone, so if you come down, you have to bring something from, Gainesville or whatever your life means, and we're going to put it in the time capsule. Then the next question is, well, when are you going to open the time capsule? And at first I said, well, of course, that's like 50 years, perpetuity. That's all I think about, 50 years. And then I was like, shoot, I'm going to be 101. That's probably not going to be likely. So anyway, I'm now reconsidering the 50 years. But anyway, I'll let you know when we decide what it's going to be. But we are doing a time capsule. And the other interesting thing we're doing is that day I commissioned a folk artist, Mary Proctor, who I've known for many years out of Tallahassee, to come down. And it's so funny, I called her up. I mean, her email address is Missionary Mary. I call up Mary. I go, Mary, Debra Koehler, I don't know if you remember me, but you did another deal for me in Lake City many years ago, and I want you to do a piece of art for a grand opening. She goes, oh my God, I've been having visions about this. And I told her about Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks. At this point, it was really eerie because she's telling me about what I'm about to tell her. So anyway, she's coming down, and she is actually literally doing the artwork during a grand opening. And it's going to be participatory because, in the folk art, you have to, you have the buttons and the thimbles and all these other interesting coins and things that are going to be part of that folk art. So grand opening day, and all this is going to be done in 1 hour, which I know you're saying, because I talk fast, I bet you we can do it in an hour. That will all be done, and we'll be celebrating, because hopefully we'll be 100% leased in about another month. So, but anyway, that's workforce housing. Now you've seen senior housing. You've seen that you can do well in commercial real estate. But where you see my passion is in the affordable workforce housing, because you can really make a difference in people's lives, and that's what it's all about. I mean, we have 6 units dedicated to youth aging out of foster care, which actually, I'm literally seeing the kids move in. And, when you turn 18 in the Florida system, you're on your own. And these kids a lot of times don't know what to do. And there's a program called Road to Independence, where if they agree to stay and go get their post-secondary education, they can get a housing stipend. That housing stipend pays for their rent at Metro 510. So there's all those cool stories. I could tell you a million more about really what it makes a difference. So what I love about real estate, and especially what I get to do every day, is I get to get up every morning, and I love what I do, and we get to do great things, but we really get to impact people's lives. So I think I got the best of all worlds. So now I talked enough. Y'all can just pepper me with questions, and I hope you do, because if you don't, that means I didn't tell you enough. So don't be shy. Oh, yes. Adriel. Well, the super committee, obviously we keep in touch with everything going on in the super committee. And the main thing is education, because the senator out of Oklahoma came up with this program. Oh, this is the worst thing since sliced bread, and they don't sell their credits for anything but 40 cents on the dollar. Actually, he had studied the Oklahoma state of affordable housing, low-income housing tax credit, not the federal. So there's been some talk, but right now it's definitely not been like, yes, we need to do away with the low-income housing tax credit, because I think there's so many other intangibles, and there are, the government still has felt like they have to have some type of housing program, and so far they haven't come up with an alternative. Now, if the tax structure changes, the 999 or flat tax 20 or whatever, that's going to change the dynamics of how much those credits are worth. So even if the tax credit, which I think it will stay, it won't be probably totally unscathed, but I think it's going to stay, but I think it's going to be really, we're going to have to react to what happens with the tax code, because that all is how, we market our credits. So knock on wood, I think we're still going to be in business. That's my plan so far. Okay, y'all cannot be shy. Oh, yes. Oh, Jack Dimitri. Do you know Jack? Oh, you did? Wow. So I'm the one I would call up and say, I need an extension?
I'm the shareholder in charge. You can talk to him instead, but
Yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, again, I went up and met Jack because I was like, I gotta like let him know that I'm real. And he goes, "Okay, little girl, I just want you to buy it." And I'll go, at this point in my life, I don't care what they call me, and I'll be chief bottle washer. It does not matter. He is, yes, exactly. He's very old school, and he did not know what to think of me because I just came in there like a whirlwind, and But anyway, luckily, he gave me the extension and the extension and the extension. But yes, it was Jack. So yes, you know the deal. The Columbian. Yeah, that's what it was called.
The lottery that you mentioned for the tax credits, was that for the county or for the state?
Oh, that was state lottery. The city, county, they had where you basically went in and almost basically gave a presentation, and then it was kind of first in, first out. So if you kind of met their criteria. So the local government's allocation system was not a lottery, but the state is usually a 5-to-1, 5 apply and 1 gets funded, and that's a pretty actually really bad odds. And that's, I mean, one of the reasons, and I know one of the reasons Jack Dimitri, I mean, when I first went and said, why should you contract with us, because there were some other people who wanted it. Well, at Wilson Company, we went after 35 deals and we got 34, which is a really good track record. They say all these things, the batting average in baseball and everything. Well, we knew we had a really good track record, but it's hard to promise that when you're in a lottery system. So I had to say, we are going to go in and we have this track record, but I cannot assume that because the world has changed. And so we were just lucky on the lottery. I'll just be honest with you. I mean, it's really hard to say that I got a deal because I was lucky. But we put a good application in, and you have to get that score before you can compete in the lottery. But yes, it was Florida Housing Finance Corporation is having their new cycle December 6th. And everybody comes to me and says, okay, so what are you putting in? All the syndicators want to know, can they write our syndication letter to get in, which will probably be another lottery. And I told them, I said, look, we've been really busy trying to get these 2 deals done, and we're just finishing. And the executive director for Florida Housing came to our grand opening last week, and he had not set up the date. And it was rumored it's going to be November 17th. I just said to Steve, I said, November 17th, I can just tell you absolutely, unequivocally, I cannot put a deal together that quickly. And then I said, the further out, the better. So it came out December 6th, so I'm not complaining. I mean, December 6th is actually doable, but it'll still be a lottery, and that's kind of a hard thing to business plan on. Yes?
Do you see like an increase in applications and therefore like a decrease in probability of winning those lotteries?
Well, that's a great question, and the answer just changed about a week ago because the original allocation was going to be $30 million in credits. And just to give you a feel, Metro 510 got $2 million of annual credits, so basically a stream of $20 million. Last week they had their board meeting in Tallahassee. They doubled down. It's now $60 million. So now I'm like, the odds are getting better because I don't think that many people can scramble and put together that many more deals. And what they did is they took, the credits are allocated annually from the federal government, and they took basically 2013 credits and 2012 and put them together for this cycle. So I would say that more developers are trying to get into this business because there's not that much other action. But because they went to $60 million for the pot, I think the odds are pretty good. The other, I'm going to give you a few more little details, but this is just strategy when you go in for these credits. They took preservation, which was the typical deals that we did for the senior high rises. They're called preservation. They allocated in the past 10% of their total allocation to preservation. Well, at the beginning of the year, there was a group of us promoting 50% because Governor Scott was saying everybody needs to go into foreclosed homes. We don't need any new construction. So we had it at one time up to 50% preservation. But then I call them the South Florida developers. I mean, they got in there like, no way, no way. And so now it's 35% preservation. So I think, and this is probably, I know y'all are not going to tell my competitors this because actually I know you have another 2 mentors that are my competitors, but do not tell them. But we will probably go for preservation because I think there's going to be a lot less competition for that 35% than the 65%. And if we do a new construction, I'll call that the one we throw in and hope we win the lottery. But I think preservation will be, there's not that many deals. And do you know what my #1 source of finding out about deals for preservation? And it's located here in this campus. Yep, the Schimberg Center. the Schimberg Center has a database, and obviously you can figure out I just met Adriel, but he is my mentee, so we got to bond before today. And but anyway, and Adriel worked at the Schimberg Center, interned at the Schimberg Center. But that is the best place to go and find out, because they've got a database clearinghouse for all of these, what I call the affordable subsidized deals in the entire state of Florida. And what was interesting is, I know, Dr. Archer, you talked about when I was on the study commission, and when we were on the study commission, the state legislature had adopted in the 90s that every citizen of Florida by 2010 would have safe, decent, affordable housing. So this was in 2001, and we're realizing, we're not going to get there by 2010. But maybe the the state legislature is not going to believe that, because hey, that was their goal. They made that goal. They're going to reach it. No problem. We don't need allocating more money for affordable housing. So at the study commission, we said we got to come up with an independent body that can say, to put the good housekeeping seal of approval and say, here's how much is needed for affordable housing. This is the unmet demand. So I just got to be the person that got to go over. I mean, I have been on this campus one other time, which was other than the football games, to Schimberg. To actually, Bob Stroh used to be the chair or the head of that department, and he actually, I found out many years later, was a fraternity brother of my dad's at Penn State, so small, small world. But Bill O'Dell, who works there, and Nancy Muller from Florida Housing and I, we went to the state legislature, and we got $250,000 appropriated to start the database clearinghouse. And now it's like the premier source, and other states are now replicating it. So it's right here on your campus. And that is the first place I will go is that database and do my search for what I call the preservation deals. So you have tools in your backyard if you didn't know it. Yes?
We were speaking about this a little before, but if you have a project that's up and running and you've sold off the credits and for whatever reason you don't meet certain criteria and you're not issued credits 1 year, you were talking about is it called recapture?
Recapture, yes.
What happens? What kind of recourse, if any, do the corporations have against you, or what happens to them?
Yes. Well, in the good old days, we would be able to get off what they call a recapture guarantee, because I'm the majority partner of my company. I personally guarantee everything. But in today's world, I include my personal guarantees. It's called a recapture guarantee, which that does, you guarantee completion and construction, which you can see the belts and suspenders we put on that. Also, I guarantee an operating deficit, which means like if I don't lease up like I thought. And the final, which is the real, I call it the kiss of death guarantee, is your recapture guarantee, which is basically a 15-year guarantee. So what you try to do is you try to negotiate what I consider caps on that, because I just don't want to be exposed for, well, obviously you can see there's $20 million of credits on Metro 510. I do not want to be exposed for $20 million. So we now have been able to negotiate with them that we cap that. But there still is a long-term exposure. I mean, I'll just tell you, on my way up here, Bank of America, I gave them my personal financial statements when we closed the deal. And, of course, I signed that I would, and I'm the CPA. I mean, I'm the one, I write the checks and I prepare my financial statements and the corporations. And they're like, remember, you were supposed to give those to us. We have a deadline. So I'm driving up here, and they want to know my contingent liabilities. I'm like, okay, I'm going to give these to you off the top of my head, which honestly, I can't give them all. I mean, I just said here, I know I got completion guarantee, and I just finished that yesterday and 2 weeks ago on the other one, so I know completion guarantee. Operating deficits I have, and recapture guarantee I have. And they put that down as a note. It's a footnote. And it'll be, it keeps, I serve on the Housing Finance Authority, and we have a fellow developer that came to us last week who has a huge balance sheet, huge, liquid like crazy, and he's got a development company, huge balance sheet. He asked the HFA, which I'm a board member, to not ask him for his personal guarantee. That's a problem when you have a developer on the board, because I know what a personal guarantee means. It means, you know what, you got my attention. I'm not, what keeps me up at night? Personal guarantees. So unfortunately, and the board always, on those kinds of things, wants to know what I think. And because nobody else wanted to say anything. And I basically said, look, he's got a huge liquidity on his development company and a huge liquidity on his individual personal financial statements. But I will just tell you, it's about being able to call somebody up. It's not a corporation that you can hide behind and say, you owe me the money. So we actually said, you still have to personally guarantee it. So yes, you have, I mean, that's why this business, a lot of people, I'll tell you from the market rate side, want to get into tax credits. They go, wow, look at all this stuff. That's the only thing going around. And I go, come on, do it. But there is a lot of, you know, it's not without risk. And I think a lot of people don't really, you know, until they get into nitty-gritty, know about the, like the recapture risk. That's like, some people go to the closing statement and they go, what's this? They go, no, this is that 15-year recapture guarantee. So hopefully what you got to do is get a really good attorney who's experienced in it, because then they kind of know what whoever your equity partner is, you know, what they'll kind of give on. But your counsel is very important, and your accountant, to understand it. Has anyone got an accounting degree, by the way? Don't all raise your hands at once. Oh, okay. Yes.
You say you have a 15-year recapture guarantee, but don't you have a contract with the government? You said for 50 years. What happens?
Yeah, the good news is, because there's a 10-year stream of credits, and then basically your partnership agreement is for 15. So, but yeah, your contract, so there's no recapture or personal, in essence, guarantee if for some reason after the year 15 and it doesn't stay affordable. But obviously the government wants a commitment from you, and it's a recorded document. But there isn't a 50-year guarantee.
So what's the government's recourse?
Just foreclosure. If you say, you know what, I don't care what you make $100,000, come on in. Well, the government every year comes and audits your files, and if they find out that you just went, I'm not going to listen to your, you know, basically your extended use agreement, they have the ability to foreclose. So that's the recourse. Yes.
So why is it 10 years worth of credits?
Mm-hmm.
Why 15 years?
The 15-year guarantee? Well, actually, they have a period of time, because usually you're not delivering all your credits in the first year. It's delivered over time. It's by building. Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, and I'm basically rounding. Right. Usually it's like 13.5 or something like that. Right. But I just use 15 as kind of, that's when you structure a partnership agreement, that's pretty much what they have intended, is they do, when they run all their cash flows, they do an exit at year 15. But that's a good question, because it didn't tie, did it? Mm-hmm. Yes, you can. Good question, because a lot of developers are now doing that. They're going back to the well, as I call it, and they're recapitalizing their deals, because it's basically. So you can go after all of your credits have burned off. So I'll use your 13.5. You can go back to Florida Housing. Actually, the question is that called preservation or not? I say no, but you know, I don't have a 15-year deal anymore. But the developers who do are saying that should count under the 35% preservation. But you can go back, yes, and recapitalize the deal. What's that? Well, yeah, well, yes, 15 years.
You said that your last credits you sold for 84 cents on the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
Is that due to demand, or do you think partially because of low interest rates?
Well, yeah, it was definitely yield driven, because like when we sold the ones at 70 cents, I mean, the yields were in the double digits, and yields are now, like right now, if I sold a deal today, because that was a year ago in 2 months, I would get almost $1. Which you're like, how, you know, $1? They're giving you $1 today on a 10-year stream. I mean, all those net present value calculations, but they have the other added tax benefits of the depreciation. And in the end, they have the CRA, if they have a CRA need, the Community Reinvestment Act need. So they are paying almost $1 for that 10-year stream, which, I mean, it gives us more equity. I mean, everything we can get, you know, closer to the dollar gives us more equity. So the 70 cents to the 84.5 cents to today, $1 is, and it's all yield driven. So now that I mean, there used to be, I'd say, 2 years ago when we were out doing Viridian, I would say there's maybe 10 syndicators, 10 investors. Now it's tripled. There's 30. I mean, there's new guys popping up every day saying, oh, hey, I'll buy your credits. And the reason we're not really talking to what I call these new guys, because I don't know if we get another hiccup on the way down. That's when a lot of the syndicators couldn't write those checks when they had because they come in installments. They just don't give you the first $10 million day one. They say you'll do it at 50% completion, at CO, and at stabilization. And some of the syndicators, when the world was tanking, they couldn't write those other checks, but you had counted on them. So we will not. I mean, we'll talk to anybody, but we wouldn't really talk to anybody seriously who did not have who's not really kind of stayed through the bad times, because we've seen what happens when they're not strong. They don't write the checks, and you're sitting there going, "Wait a minute, I need to finish my building," and they said, "Sorry, we're out of money," and that was a big, big problem in 2008. And it's scary. I never thought it would happen. I always thought they will always write the check, because there was the investor. But they didn't. They said, "Sorry, we ran out of money. We had a bridge line that we thought we were going to write that check on," and they called our bridge line. So that's the kind of the scary things. And right now we're in really good times. So they're all clamoring for you, and they're all calling you, and they all want, "What's your next deal?" And "I'll pay you $1." Then you know what's the next negotiating point? After you do the pricing, it's guarantees. So now, what they said a year and a half ago, we want this, we want this one, we want this, they are now starting to negotiate on guarantees. So that's when you know the market's turned again. Because I'll tell you, in the Viridian deal, there was no negotiations on guarantees. It was like, you want us to do this deal, this is what you got to sign. And guess what? I signed it. Because there was nothing else out in the marketplace. So, but yeah, so you just got to stay in touch with what's going on the demand side. And that's why it's good to know who wants CRA credits. Like, you know why PNC is now hot in the market? You see PNC signs, I don't know if they're popping up in Gainesville, but they're popping up in Tampa. And that's why I immediately go, branches, Community Reinvestment Act, they got to invest money. And, you know, that's why it's really now, you're more attuned to who's buying which bank and who's got Community Reinvestment Act needs, because they will pay more for your tax credits. So it's really, and it's just, I think that's what's so interesting in affordable housing, is where you've got all these different dynamics. You've got your investor market dynamics. You've got your real estate dynamics of, your demand side. You've got your, obviously, your local government. Local governments now want this. They want you to build in downtown Tampa, because they see ULI just came to Tampa last week, 2 weeks ago. I don't know, Blaine, if you went to the ULI presentation, but they had a week of just experts from all over the country coming and interviewing people, and then they did a big presentation to the mayor and about 200 people. And obviously I must have been doing some marketing, because I gave my brochure when they interviewed me. And then that day they come up and they go, "You know what you need more of? You need more Metro 510s," which I was like, "Yes, I've been telling you that." But they are now seeing that there's a huge void, because all the developers did the high end, and it was kind of, in the days of financing, that was easy. But now, where the people that really need the affordable housing is in the income band we serve. So I think you're going to see more urban deals like we've been doing. Yes?
Are you going to stay in downtown Tampa, or are you planning to other places?
That's a good question, because when I was at Will's company, I did everything from like Lake City down to, I never went to Miami. Everybody said, "Why'd you do Miami?" I go, "Because it's like, I don't really understand how to do business in Miami." It was like another really interesting world. But we did like Lake City, which is an interesting world too. But now what I've really realized, I don't really want to venture out into tertiary, even secondary markets. I like the urban core deals, because I realized not everybody really wants to do them. We were the first ones to do it in Tampa. Now I think we'll get more competition. But actually, with our demand, leasing 50% in 2 weeks, we probably, downtown Tampa could use another one. And the city was, they like us, and now they want us to do another one. So Tampa, St. Pete, Orlando is kind of a little bit softer market. Then you go to Jacksonville, and there's 67 counties in the state of Florida. And the state has said that in the suburban area of many of those counties, probably over 50% have been overbuilt, but the urban cores have not. So I kind of, again, this is just, you morph over time. All the deals at Wilson were suburban. I did not do one urban deal. And now I'm just telling you, I like this whole urban thing, because I think it's like the wave. I think people like to be able to walk, to be downtown, close to work. And it's another really, I think, environment that more and more people are wanting to do. In fact, we have retirees that are moving into Metro, not Vista, because they go, "Wow, this is kind of cool. I ask for the same rents." So it's not just what I call, the people here, you guys in this room. It is seniors wanting to be downtown too. They like the walkability, they like the entertainment value, and they like that they can get on transportation. And they don't. I mean, our one senior, the trustee that just moved in, he's selling his car. He goes, I don't need a car. I'm downtown, and that's kind of big city thinking. That's like New York and Chicago. So yeah, it's really is. I mean, if you can come, I will give you a personal tour. If you can't come to the grand opening. Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you all for being so attentive.